All right, so this right here is iFootage Shark Slider Nano 2. This is the second generation of iFootage Shark Sliders, and this is the 660 version. They have two lengths, the 660 and the 440. I think. So this here is one of the most advanced motorized sliders you can get right now. And what they cleverly did is collaborate with DJI so that the sliders can take DJI gimbals. So combining those two, you can get some pretty cool movements that you can't get with a normal slider. And everything that you need to connect to a DJI gimbal comes right in the box. So combined with something like this, the DJI RS4, you can get some pretty cinematic shots. So it doesn't just support the DJI RS4. There's a full list of the gimbals that it supports right here. I'll leave them on the screen. And I think the key points to note is that it has to have a removable battery grip, because you remove the battery and connect it to the slider. And two, it has to have these hot shoe mounts on the side of the gimbal. Some of the older DJI gimbals don't have the hot shoe, it's a cold shoe instead. So do check the list to see if your gimbal is supported. All right, so let's get these opened and then I'll show you everything that you get, especially with the slider, because it comes with everything that you need to be able to use it with the DJI gimbal. Oh, it comes in a bag. Oh, that is really cool. So it comes in a transportable bag. So if you want to transport it somewhere, you've got a bag. Are you ready? I don't expect to see someone's picture in there. That threw me off. Oh, there's a pouch of goodies. So this is everything that I was saying it comes with, right? You get the power brick, USB-C to USB-C in there. You get a phone mount so you can use it with a phone, which is really nice. And then the creme de la creme. This is what connects to the DJI gimbal. So you remove the battery handle and then slot it onto there. And then it also comes with the cold shoe mount for the DJI gimbal. There's one more thing. Oh, an Arcosys place for your camera. I probably are not gonna use that because I already have an Arcosys plate for my camera. All right, so next I'm gonna walk you through the setup process and how it works. First off, the setup process is quite simple. You just have to plug it in, and there's three ways that you can power it. You can use the Sony MPF battery right here, which I think is the easiest way, or you can use the included wall adapter, which is what I'm doing. And the third option is to use a battery bank, but you need to make sure that the battery bank can provide at least 60 watts. The app, in my opinion, is the best way to use this. You can do almost everything without the app on the touchscreen interface, but then I think the app is the best way to use it because it gives you a few other options that you don't get in here. It gives you joysticks that you can use to control the slider. So without the gimbal, all you get is slide and pan. You can set up to 8 keyframes either on the phone, so A to H, or if you come here on the interface, you can do that as well. So to put the gimbal on, you need this adapter that it comes with. There's a magnetic connection that it connects to the hot shoe of your gimbal. I'll show you that in a second. And then this is where it provides power to the gimbal. Make sure the connection pins match because it goes the other way as well. And next I'm gonna grab the gimbal and go ahead and detach the battery grip because this is the connection on there. So I'll go ahead and mount that on there like so. And then make sure to lock it in. So it's providing power to the gimbal, but it's not talking to it. So in order for it to talk to it, you need this cable that iFootage provides. This cable magnetizes onto the back of the head, and then you screw that in on the hot shoe mount on the gimbal. Once you've connected the gimbal to the tripod, now you get pan and tilt on here instead of just pan. On the phone, with the joysticks, I can tilt the gimbal up or down. And if you go into the settings here, you can turn on the roll axis as well. So to set your keyframes, there's a few ways that you can do that. You don't necessarily need the app, but you can use the app fully for everything. You can slide it to where you want and set your keyframes there, or you can use manual marking. Hit the power button and the function button together once, and then it turns on manual marking, and that unlocks the slider so you can move it wherever you want. It's quite hard to move, so you have to put a bit of force into it. So you move it to wherever you want. So to set that as a keyframe, I'll just tap on A. I can then move it to the point B that I want. So let's say I want this to be my point B. Oh, one other thing. In order to be able to move the gimbal freely like that, you need to go into the settings. So swipe down into the settings and turn on push mode. So push pan, push tilt. You can't do push roll because the gimbal doesn't let you. So there you go. I'll choose this as my second point and then go to B and save that as B. And then I'll move it again to, say, a third point. Come all the way this to here and point it to my Mac Mini. One thing that I've noticed that nobody has talked about in any of the videos that I've watched is that it will be choppy if you don't film at like 60 frames per second or don't move slowly. If you come here, you can set the time between point A and point B to up to 1 second, and it will move very fast, but it's not going to be smooth. Keep that in mind. The default 15 seconds, I find that to be really good because it moves quite slow. Sometimes you might want to even set it to like longer than 15 seconds. So I'll set this point at C, but then I'll come in and change the time because this is just showing you how it works. I'll change the first one to 1 second so you see how fast it can go, and then leave the second one I'll leave it at 15 seconds. 15 seconds will be more usable. I looked at some of the footage that I filmed yesterday and it was horrible. It's very choppy. Anyway, so now that I have my point set and my time set, I hit standby and I'll move to the first point, and then you can hit start. And you see how fast it's going. One other thing is if your DJI gimbal is connected to your camera via Bluetooth, it will automatically start recording when you hit start, which is really cool if you ask me. So once you hit start, you don't have to hit record. It will automatically start recording on your camera. So you're never gonna miss a shot. Incredible. Right now it's set to loop. So if you look at the app, it's doing what I've set on the app, and they talk to each other. So everything is showing up on the app. And it's set to loop, so it will do this whole loop until I stop it. It'll go from A to C, C to A. So everything that I did on the slide that you can do in the app. So I'm going to show you how to do it in the app just with the joysticks. It's a bit slow with the joysticks, so what I tend to do is use the app, but then use manual marking. Once I've set manual marking, I will manually move it to where I want to move it to, and then come into the app and set that as my point A. And then I'll turn off manual marking, move the slider back to my point B. In this shot, I want to do a roll. So what I'll do is go into the setting, turn off the slide and turn on the roll, and then roll it. You can only do roll in the app. I haven't figured out a way to use the roll access on the slider itself. You can only do it in the app. So I roll it to where I want to roll it to, and then go back to manual marking, so I can move the pan and the tilt axis to where I want. So there is a perfect place that I want it. And then come back and set that to my B point. And then continue in manual marking, move to a C point, and then I'll reset the gimbal so that I can reset the roll axis. The other way to do that is to manually come in and like roll it back to straight, but then you can barely ever get it to roll back to straight. So what I do is reset the gimbal and then go back to manual marking. My point C, I wanted to do on the Mac Mini. So there. And you can also change the time in the app. So you can either change the time or the speed. The speed is in percentage and the time is in seconds. So I'll just set the time to 5 seconds on this one. And so that's from point B to point C. And then if you want to change the time from point A to point B, which is now set at 2 seconds, I'll change that to 8 seconds. And then turn off manual marking so I can go and standby. And then you can hit start and it'll run through the whole sequence. So as you can see, I set it to roll, so it does the roll as well. And in my opinion, that's what makes the slider stand out. Two things though that you need to make sure of if you're gonna get one of these. It is heavy, so you need a heavy duty tripod. because this whole setup is quite expensive. So I would say invest in a heavy duty tripod. And the other thing is, as I mentioned earlier, they have two versions of this, the 660, which is the one I have here. And then they also have, I think, the 440. So for my research, when I was buying this, the 440 is quite sharp. There isn't a lot of travel. So I would say maybe compare the 440 to the 660 and make sure that if you go for the 440 because it's cheaper, make sure that that is what you need, because it is quite sharp. It's not going to travel very far before it hits the end of the rail. And you'd be happy to know that whether you go with the 440 or the 660, they both support the same payload. So when you're using it horizontally like this, it can support up to 7 kilos, which is pretty impressive, by the way. When you have the slider vertically, it can support half of that at 3.5 kilos. Alright then, what's the verdict? Do I recommend the Shark Slider Nano 2? Well, I think it's a great addition if you already have a supported DJI gimbal. But you definitely shouldn't go out and buy the Nano 2 and an RS4 thinking it will change the game for you in a day. To be very honest, I'm a bit torn about it. I definitely see the potential, especially when looking at some of the shots I was able to get with it. But it's also a very expensive setup for what it is. I bet you can find a slider that can do about 80% of what this can do for much cheaper, if you don't need the bells and whistles. But it could also be worth it if you have a supported DJI gimbal and want to get the most out of it. But anyway, let me know what you think about this style of video. It's definitely very unconventional for me and sort of rubs my OCD off the wrong way, but I definitely enjoyed making it. I was genuinely truly excited about this slider and wanted to show you everything I've learned about it in the past week, so I didn't really have the time to write up a script and yada yada, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, peace.